Seattle tonight, the other 100.
I am also taking swift and decisive action to protect our great capital, Washington, D.C. What happened in this city last night was a total disgrace. As we speak, I am dispatching thousands and thousands of heavily armed soldiers, military personnel, and law enforcement officers to stop the rioting, looting, vandalism, assaults, and the wanton destruction of property.
Hello everyone, Alfred coming to you again here. Hey listen, I'm just glad to be able to talk to you. What an honor it is, what a privilege it is to be able to just speak to a bunch of people who are wanting to hear. Okay, again, critical month that we're in right now. We're heading toward the elections of the president as well as the Senate. 1/3 of the Senate's about to be voted in or voted out. And then the entire House of Representatives comes under vote. That's just how our system works, and it's a beautiful system. And it's a beautiful system, everyone. That is the reason why we do have the oldest constitution in the world, the oldest living constitution in the world. We have it right here in the United States. All right, beautiful stuff. Now, of course, I've already spoken to you before how our enemies, and you'll see them more and more increasing as they encroach upon your liberty, as they encroach upon your freedom. And you're going to have to take your stand. Now, you got to listen to your brother here. You're going to have to get ready to take your stand because, and you're going to have to take the right stand. And there's a good portion of you that are not on the right team because you're allowing hatred to dictate. You think that that hatred is rooted in truth. You think that it's rooted in fact. And then you watch the news programs that continue to reinforce what you believe. And now you definitely think that you're in the right. And you're not giving yourself enough thought. You're not giving yourself enough thought, you know. And but nonetheless, please, I'm asking every one of you during this program, share it with as many as possible, especially among my race. Please share it out. Just share it out. Give it out. And at the end of the program, just share. Please get it to as many people as possible. Again, tough times, critical times that we're in, and they might even get a little bit more difficult before it gets better. And we need for every one of you to get ready to advance. Now, today, again, we're going to continue our lesson on liberty. We're just going to come from a different angle. We're going to come from a different angle. We're going to ask ourselves certain questions that deal with politics and that deal with life and that deal with religion. All these things matter so very much. And I'm just going to ask you some questions and then we're going to answer them because you already know what the answer is. Okay, you already know what the answer is, but here we go. We're going to go ahead and go into this. As it concerns the entitlement systems, because this is something that our enemy did in order to be able to undermine our sense of individual drive to get what we know we want to get, to strive to be what we want to be in terms of accomplishment and in terms of acquiring things as well, and also in terms of becoming the real men and women that we could be by good, hard effort, hard work, and by seeking God. Okay, but listen, there are things that we're having to wrestle with now. We've allowed an enemy to really entrench himself nicely. And because of these issues that we're not wanting to confront or questions that we don't usually answer honestly. Let me ask a question. Tell me, which one of these two do you think is going to have the best end goal or the end result to their life or to their efforts? Ready? An individual who takes it under his own control to better his own self through focus, through study, through hard work, through diligence, through studying people who are in his same field before him, learning their stuff so they can master it and then maybe exceed it later. People who are particular about what they do. Okay? Now, these kind of people, and people who are moral, whose hearts are right with God and so they're stable. Now, who do you think is going to be better? That individual or the individual that survives off of entitlements or survives off of what the government would give, survives off of whether it be food stamps or whether it be anything else that the government gives. In the end, which one of them will be more prosperous, more settled? Which one of them would have the greater character? Which one of them would be able to learn what actions are better than others? Who's going to be able to properly understand their fellow man so they can control their family right and do that correctly? The person who is constantly learning what it takes to succeed. And by the way, success means that you're going to have to relate with people right. There's no success without you relating with people right, because they'll very quickly go to somebody else who will treat them right. So prosperity requires that you actually treat people with respect. Well, do you think that's going to help your family out? Yes, it will. Also, as you learn to succeed, you start learning what it feels like to not have money. Because as you're pressing ahead, you have to sacrifice. You got to do a whole bunch of stuff in order to really you don't become wealthy overnight, everybody. It takes a lot of hard work. But the character lessons that you learn from that, you're going to be able to pass on to your children and to your children's children. Somebody that lives off of the government can't develop those qualities. It won't happen. So long as somebody else is providing for you in terms of food so that you don't have to provide for yourself, you don't just miss out on a job. You miss out on everything that excellence in that field could have done for you. All right? So since we know that, since being excellent is superior to being dependent, you would think that our race would make certain that the policies that are being enforced from the federal government are more in the direction of self-reliance, autonomy, liberty, excellence, mutual respect between ourselves and our fellow man, because that's what business is about, everybody. That's what it's about. Learning how to sacrifice, learning how to live low, save, and everything else. You would think that we would make certain that our government is enforcing those kind of policies, that is, policies that support liberty. If you know that that one is going to be better than the other, why in the world would we as a race be encouraging the wrong one of those two choices? Why? Why are we constantly pressing for entitlements, knowing that those entitlements don't make for the best end results? You would think that we as a people would make certain that we are choosing the course, that if you had an option, which one works out for the better in the end? That's the one that you're going to want, the one that works out better in the end. How about this question? Who is going to be able to build friendships, family, and mutual acquaintances and co-ops out there? Is it going to be the person who, one more time, seizes the opportunity to create these beautiful community goals and then serve others and build your leverage by relationships, and so that you are now pulling together with your fellow man to reach certain ends? Is that individual going to do it? The person who takes it under his own advisement, if you will, under his own control by God's grace, and develops these community visions and cooperations and things of this sort, is that person going to be better in building community? Or is it going to be better for the person that believes that the government can force us into proper relations? They can force a white man to like a black man, or vice versa. Or can force us to appreciate the Mexicans that are here and any other race that's here, and then they respect us. Can the government really force that? See, these are many of the things that we're demanding when we hold up signs and everything else, and we demand racial justice. Well, what do you mean by racial justice? If there's going to be racial justice, it's going to be because the government makes it happen, or it's going to be because the citizens make it happen. And we make it happen by how we choose to be towards our fellow man. We have an opportunity right now. Our government in certain areas has reached their limits. They weren't supposed to be trying to manage those areas of racial relations. And it's so sad that we're trying to work through the government to make it happen. It was never meant to be that way. It was always meant to be on the local level, and it was always to begin with you. Yeah, you, the one I'm talking to right there. It was meant to begin with you. How you treat your fellow man, how you build cooperation, how you value your fellow man, your current fellow man. And don't try to use the past in order to justify you hating people that had nothing to do with what happened 100 years ago. It had nothing to do with it. You have an opportunity to be the kind of person that you want the society to reflect. If you want there to be equality, you have to be the person that treats everyone else equally, whether they treat you that way or not. It's your responsibility as a human, as a person that is autonomous, as a person that is free. It's your responsibility to build those relationships, to establish a common community vision, to build things and to build cooperatives and things of this sort. But you do that by the respect that you have for your fellow man. You build relationships that cross racial barriers. You do it. There's no greater force than you doing it. You choosing to love your fellow man is way more force than whatever the government can do. They can't make you love your fellow man. Don't you understand how illogical that is? Since we know that to be true, that it's better that you, as a person of liberty, an autonomous human, use your power to cultivate peace, love, and service, and protect each other. Watch out for each other. Watch out for policies that are coming out from the government so that we can judge whether or not they're serving our end the way they were supposed to. And they have a certain area that they're supposed to be defending us in. But as it concerns on the local level, how we treat each other socially, that's all on you. And the greatest benefit of unity will be derived from how you treat your fellow man, not from the federal government. Stop hanging up those signs and go start serving your fellow man, respecting them, white, black, Hispanic, Oriental, Indian, whatever, okay? Whatever it might be. You serve your fellow man. It turns you into a different kind of human. It makes you see the world differently. You're going to end up seeing that there's a bunch of folks out there that want to help you. They want to work with you, and they don't care what race you are. By the way, I'm experiencing it. So for me, I'm not just giving a bunch of ideas. I have seen all races come together on a good cause. They will put money into it. They'll put energy into it. They'll put legwork into it. They'll put their passion into it. I've seen it. And it's too late for someone like me because I've already seen it. Those of you who have conditioned yourself to be haters, now you don't think you are. You think you're actually telling the truth. But you end up not treating your fellow man right. You're ready to attack a white man when you see him. You're ready to attack a police officer. Your utter confusion, almost madness you've put yourself in the position of. No, serve your fellow man. Love, like the greatest commandment of all from God says, love. And you're going to find the power of that. You're going to find out what it means to your family again. Because when you learn to cooperate with people, when you learn to compromise with people in order to help there to be unity, a common unity, now you're able to help your family. You're able to help your children. You're able to get along with your spouse. But when you're not that kind of individual and you're trying to work through the government to force relationships, your attitude is going to also be reflected in your relationships. You're going to be trying to force your spouse to love you, or your significant other to love you, or your children to respect you, or the children are going to be demanding from the parent, because you don't have the character to know how to compromise, how to relate with each other correctly, how to serve, how to motivate, how to build. Those things come from individual initiative that's associated with liberty, associated with freedom. You do not want the other, where the government establishes how you relate with your fellow man. They establish egalitarianism, like the Marxists want to do, where I don't know what in the world the end goal of that is. It always fails. It always ends up in poverty, whether in China or where it always ends up in poverty. Those philosophies, those ideas will not work. And you might say, well, yeah, well, they're pretty rich. China's pretty rich, folks. All those nations are benefiting from the United States of America and what we do. Okay, they open up their markets just enough to cipher in some of our resources, our money. Okay, that's what they do. If they actually were legitimate totalitarian communists like they really are, you would see the third world absolute poverty that they're in. They have to compromise their system in order to be able to benefit from the freedom that comes from the United States of America, to siphon some of those resources in to give the appearance of general prosperity. Just trust me, everyone. If many of the Chinese were given the opportunity to fly to America, you would see them coming over here by the hundreds of millions if they could, okay? And in those communist countries, they actually got them on lockdown, where they have to stay in the country unless the government lets them go. You don't want that. You want to be the kind of person that travels where you please, especially here in the United States. Do you want to be that way? But by the way, that's also a choice. Do you want to be a person that's able to choose where you travel, where you go, because you're autonomous? Or do you want the government to control that? Which one's going to end up to be the greater for your prosperity? You being able to travel to represent your business, to represent your company, to represent the people that you're co-opted with, so that you can expand your market share, you can grow it among people, you can share your vision, you can get more investors to come in? Or where you go where the government says you can go? Which one of those is better? You're going to want to exercise your freedom as an American citizen, and you're going to want to exercise your goodness as a Christian, and then watch what happens on your relationships on the local level, and then watch what happens both in your soul and then in your family. And listen, y'all, God bless you. Again, we're in a tough time. Keep loving on folks, and it doesn't matter if they seem to hate you. You keep loving. You keep loving. Tough time. We're in patriots that are out there. You got to keep loving people. I do know that we need to defend ourselves against enemies, both foreign and domestic, and that's true. But please don't let your passions get out of control to where you're reckless. Let love continue to guide you. I know it's tough to have that balance, where sometimes you have to have a sword in one hand and love in the other for the sake of your children and our country. But please keep yourself balanced. Let God's love overwhelm your mind. Keep yourself as good patriots, honorable patriots that love God and country and love our fellow man. I love you all. Remember, share this with as many people as you can. God bless you.
I am also taking swift and decisive action to protect our great capital, Washington, D.C. What happened in this city last night was a total disgrace. As we speak, I am dispatching thousands and thousands of heavily armed soldiers, military personnel, and law enforcement officers to stop the rioting, looting, vandalism, assaults, and the wanton destruction